Putin's war in Ukraine has been going on now for nearly 2 weeks. And by this point, you're probably noticing gas prices where you live going higher and higher. But how exactly does a war thousands of miles away impact and affect your local gas station? To be honest, global oil trade is pretty complex. So here's sort of the Spark Notes version on how this works. Let's start with extraction of crude oil. That is unrefined oil that comes from underground. We basically need this in order to produce gas. Even though the US is the world's biggest oil producer, we use more than we produce, which means we need to import millions of barrels from other countries to help keep us afloat. And about 8% of US imports come from Russia. The EU gets more oil from Russia than anywhere else in the world, more than 25%, and when it comes to natural gas, that pops up to 40%. Well, that's great, but that doesn't explain why local gas prices are going up. Well, it comes down to supply and demand on a global scale. Take the start of the pandemic, for example. Oil producers in the US shut down production because no one was going anywhere. As we started to rebound from the pandemic, oil demand soared, but the US oil industry then had to keep up to meet that demand, forcing prices to go up. Now we bring Russia's invasion of Ukraine into the picture. Already high gas prices are going to go up and become even worse. As soon as Russia began building up their troops at Ukraine's border, we saw this happen. The prices continued to increase over concern that a continued invasion would affect an already tight supply, which was again already impacted due to the pandemic. Because the value of a barrel of oil is set by speculators, basically investors who bet on the value of the future price of oil, all this decrease in supply and increase in demand means we pay more at the pump. Right as we cut off yet another supplier from this global pool, which brings us to President Biden's ban of Russian oil and gas. That means less crude oil will be available, making oil traders nervous as we see higher costs per barrel. Whether it's war, global strife, conflict, whatever you want to call it, they're all interconnected in some way to oil prices. When US airstrikes hit Iranian-backed militias in Syria, gas prices went up. In the 80s and 90s, violence erupted in oil-producing regions, and gas prices went up. And the last time they rose this quickly, during the 2008 financial crisis. So, buckle up. It will likely continue to get worse before it gets better.